Antimatter sounds fake, but the annoying part is, antimatter is real. It is not magic. It is not alien dust. And it is not just regular matter going through a rebellious phase. It is basically matter's evil twin, which sounds dramatic, but that is honestly the least dramatic way to describe it. Because everything around you, your phone, your chair, your house, your body, and the snack you said you were not going to eat, is made of matter. Matter is just stuff. That is the easiest definition. If you can touch it, drop it, break it, sit on it, or accidentally spill it on your shirt, it is probably matter. Antimatter is like that same stuff, but with the tiny invisible switches flipped the other way. So imagine every tiny piece of the universe has an opposite version. Not opposite like good and evil, even though evil twin is way more fun to say, but opposite like the universe made a regular particle, then immediately made another one and said, same thing, but backwards. For example, one of the tiny pieces inside matter is called an electron. You do not need to know much about it. It is small, it is important, and it is already doing more work than most group project members. The antimatter version of an electron is called a positron. Same size, same general idea, opposite charge. So it is basically an electron wearing a fake mustache, except the mustache can destroy things. Now normally, opposites attract. That sounds cute, that sounds romantic, that sounds like something written on a mug at Target. But when matter and antimatter attract, it is not a love story. It is a murder-suicide with math. When a particle meets its antimatter twin, they annihilate, which is science's calm way of saying they touch and become a violent flash of energy. Not smoke, not dust, not a cute little poof. Energy. Like the universe deleted both files, but somehow the delete button exploded. And this is where people bring up E equals mc squared. You have probably seen it before. It is on posters, shirts, science classrooms, and anywhere someone wants to look smart without explaining anything. The painless version is this. Matter is basically locked up energy. It is like the universe packed a ridiculous amount of power into tiny stuff, then trusted us not to be weird about it, which was a mistake. So when matter and antimatter destroy each other, that locked up energy gets released. And because atoms are tiny, you would think the energy would be tiny too. But no, physics saw that assumption and chose violence. A tiny amount of antimatter meeting regular matter can release a shocking amount of energy. Not because antimatter is cursed, but because it is really efficient at turning stuff into pure, please stand back. If a speck of antimatter the size of dust met the same amount of normal matter, it would not end the world, but it would absolutely ruin whatever surface it happened on. Table, gone. Desk, having a bad day. Kitchen counter, congratulations, your granite is now part of a physics demonstration. And if you had larger amounts, like movie-sized amounts, then yes, antimatter becomes horrifying very quickly. Which is why science fiction treats it like the final boss of fuel. Spaceships powered by antimatter, antimatter bombs, antimatter cores, antimatter briefcases, antimatter whatever the plot needs. But there is one tiny problem. We barely have any. And when I say barely, I do not mean the government has a secret warehouse full of it. I mean, we make it in amounts so small a breadcrumb would look at it and say, you need to eat. Scientists can make antimatter, but it is painfully difficult. It is not like making coffee. You cannot just press a button and wait for the antimatter machine to stop screaming. To make it, scientists smash particles together at insane speeds, then search through the mess for the few antimatter particles that appear. This is basically like throwing two cars at each other, then digging through the wreckage because one of the cup holders briefly became special. And after all that work, you still have to store it, which is even worse. Because you cannot put antimatter in a jar. The jar is made of matter. The table is made of matter. The room is made of matter. You are made of matter. So if antimatter touches literally anything normal, it does the one thing it is famous for. It annihilates. Which means storing antimatter is like trying to keep a shark in a balloon, except the shark is invisible. The balloon is allergic to sharks, and the ocean is math. So scientists have to trap antimatter without letting it touch the walls. They use magnetic fields, electric fields, vacuum chambers, and machines that look like they were built specifically to confuse anyone walking past them. And even then, they are not storing a glowing ball of world-ending power. They are storing tiny amounts of tiny particles for tiny amounts of time, while everyone in the room acts like this is normal. Now, the weirdest part is, antimatter is not only made in giant labs, it also shows up naturally. Space can make it. Radioactive materials can make it. Even hospitals use a type of antimatter in PET scans. Yes, the same thing that sounds like it belongs in a spaceship engine is also involved in medical imaging. which is comforting until you remember the comforting machine works by detecting tiny controlled annihilations inside your body. Medicine really said, do not worry, the explosions are helpful. And honestly, fair enough. But antimatter gets even stranger when you stop asking, can we use it? And start asking, where did the rest of it go? Because according to what scientists understand, the early universe should have made matter and antimatter together. Every time matter showed up, antimatter should have shown up too. Equal teams, fair match, universe basketball. And if that happened perfectly, matter and antimatter should have destroyed each other, leaving behind basically nothing but light. No stars, no planets, no oceans, no animals, no people, no pizza rolls at 2 a.m., just a sad, empty universe full of leftover energy, which sounds peaceful, but only because none of us would be around to complain about it. But for some reason, matter won. Not by a lot, not by a landslide, not even by enough to brag. Matter won by the tiniest little advantage, like the universe counted all the particles. And after the biggest cosmic wipeout in history, there was just a little extra matter left over. And that leftover matter became everything: galaxies, stars, planets, trees, fish, your left hand, your weird uncle. All of it. So the reason you exist is basically because matter beat antimatter by one of the sloppiest margins in cosmic history, which means the universe was almost erased at the beginning, but matter survived with just enough leftovers to make rocks, stars, and eventually a species smart enough to ask what antimatter is, but not smart enough to stop putting glass screen protectors on with dust underneath. So antimatter is not terrifying because we have tons of it. We absolutely do not. It is terrifying because it reminds us that everything around us is basically the universe's surviving scraps. Antimatter is matter's evil twin. And the only reason the evil twin did not erase the entire family is because matter somehow won the universe's weirdest coin toss. So yes, antimatter is real. Yes, it can destroy matter. And no, you probably do not need to worry about it, unless you see a glowing suitcase under a volcano.